Hello again to all of you. Tonight, this afternoon, I'm going to tell the story about Huuti and Te-Moo-Nieve. And Huuti was a young man, and Te-Moo-Nieve was an ogress of Hini-Hai. And this is from the Marquesas Te-Moo-Nieve, the land of men. And in the ancient times, in Te-Moo-Nieve, in the land of men in the Marquesas, there were these Hini-Hai, which means a savage woman, basically an ogress. And they had two appearances. And one appearance was the Hini-Hai. Pop would go her eyeballs. Her eyeballs would drop out. Her tongue was a hairy centipede, a It would come out and lick her chops, and she'd eat people. And if a Hini-Hai wanted to eat a young man, what she would do, she would take, the other appearance was like the appearance of a beautiful woman. And so if a Hini-Hai wanted to eat a young man, she'd stand on the path, on the side of the path, and if she saw a young man going by, she'd call him, "Come with me! Let's go off together in the woods." And if he was that sort of interested boy, he would follow her off into the woods. And they would go deeper and deeper into the woods. And then finally, her eyeballs would come out. She'd lick her chops. Out would come her hairy centipede of a tongue, and she'd eat the young man. Okay? And some of the traditions, at night, like about 8 or 9 p.m., it was called the hour where the Hini-Hai, the ogress woman's eyes are glowing red in the dark. So I think maybe at those times people kind of hurry on home. So they wouldn't meet anything out there on the street. And they also had the belief that the Hini-Hai would steal children away at night. So parents would be careful when they went to sleep. Make sure they'd arrange their house or count their kids in the middle of the night. Make sure that the Hini-Hai didn't steal a child. Okay, so this is our story. And it's from the Ta'awa Valley in Hiva-Oa. This is the story. Huuti is this young man, and Te-Moo-Nieve is the Hini-Hai, the ogress. These are the young people in Ta'awa. And their work is they're shooting arrows. And they're all on this platform, and they're shooting arrows at a target, and all the young people are shooting arrows. And Huuti, he took his arrow, and he said he chanted a magic spell on it. And he said to his friends, he said, "You guys have been shooting arrows and you got nothing. I'm going to shoot my arrow up the mountain, up into the ear of Te-Moo-Nieve." And some of his friends, they said, "Who's going to shoot the arrow into the ear of Te-Moo-Nieve?" And some of them, they made fun of him and said, "It's not even going to come to us. It's going to shoot in your back." And Huuti, he took his arrow and he shot his arrow. And it went and it broke through, there's this ridge called Fatueki, it broke through the ridge. And then it went on even further and it hit this one point on the land and it knocked off this island into the sea that's called unkind. And then it passed on and there's this place called Te-Ava Yetiku with this ridge and it chipped out a hole in the ridge. And then, from then on, it went on and it went into the ear of Te-Moo-Nieve. And Te-Moo-Nieve, somebody shot an arrow in her ear, she stood up, she shook her head. She said, "Arrow, whose arrow are you?" And the arrow, it didn't move in her ear. And she knew that then she said, "Arrow, are you Kenna's arrow?" And the arrow did not move. So she knew that this arrow was not Kenna's arrow. And then she said, "Are you Hime's arrow?" And the arrow did not move. "Are you Popoama's arrow?" And it did not move. And she said the name of all the young people, and the arrow did not move. And she said, "The arrow's not moving." She said, "Arrow, do you belong to Huuti?" And that arrow, it wiggled in her ear. And she said, "Wow. He really shot that a long distance." And then she pulled the arrow out of her ear. And then she said, "Later on, I'm going to get you." She was talking to Huuti. And then after that time, after she pulled that arrow out of her ear, she stopped living in that place, and then she went back to live in her cave. She stayed in her cave. Well, these are the people in Ta'awa, and they are going and they're looking for a mast for a canoe. Because they're building a canoe. And they're looking for a straight tree, you know, to make the mast. And some of them went and they looked for hibiscus bark to make some cord, you know, to tie the sails and the different parts of the canoe. And so all the people from Ta'awa went and they looked for these things. And some of them, they went and they found what they were looking for and they came back. And others, they went up on the mountain a bit and they came back, and then they saw what they got what they wanted, they came back. And Huuti, he went up way up on the mountain. And he got to the place near the cave of Te-Moo-Nieve. And at that place, he got what he was looking for. He found this tree, and it was like a tall, straight tree. And he said, man, those fools. They went back, and they just have junk. What I have got is so good. And so then he cut down the tree. And when the tree fell down, when he cut down the tree, the top of the tree fell over the mouth, covered the mouth of Te-Moo-Nieve's cave. And Te-Moo-Nieve, she grabbed onto the branch. And Huuti, he started wanting to pull his tree down and, you know, cut off the branches. He gave it a tug and he goes, doesn't move. Where's this tree stuck at? And so he pulled it 3 times and it didn't come out. And he got mad and he climbed up the tree. And he said, he went up the tree just to see exactly where it was stuck at. And the very top, he got up to the very, very top. And who was there? Te-Moo-Nieve. She was holding onto his tree. And then Huuti, when he saw who it was, he was terrified. And she said, now you're going to die. This is the second time you've messed with me. First, your arrow in my ear. Now you're chopping down my door. And Huuti said, why? He said, my woman, why are you at? Stop being mad. My woman, you're going to be my wife. And she said, never. And he said, and then they were standing there looking at one another. Pop went her eyeballs. Out, she licked her chops. Out came her ve'ohumana, her hairy centipede of a tongue. And Huuti said, why are you doing this to me, my woman? Do you think that when you make this appearance to me that I'm going to be scared of you? And he talked nice to her. And the appearance of an ogress woman went away. And she went back to being a beautiful woman. And then she said to her husband, she said to Huuti, you stay here. I will go and prepare our food. And Huuti said, okay, do as you wish. And she went off and she prepared their food. And the food was lizards and rats. And when she was done preparing the food, she called to Huuti, hey, mighty kai, come and eat, my husband. And he came and when he saw what it was, cooked lizards and rats, he thought, this is terrible food. And he said, is this our food? And she said, yes, this is our food. He says, this is the first time that I have ever seen food so bad. And she said, what you've got there is my food, husband, my husband. And the husband, he did not eat. And she said to him, and then he said, look, my dear, let me tell you, the food in my country is good. What do you think? I will go to my country, I will prepare the food for us. And she said, if you go, you might not come back. And he said, well, what's the food that we can eat here? She said, okay, you can go. And he said, the husband said, the first fire that you will see, the first fire that you're going to see will be a fire for cooking poke, which is a kind of a pudding. The second fire, the fire that comes next, is a fire for cooking ma, which is this kind of breadfruit pudding. It's like kind of like bread or something. The third fire, it'll be an oven for cooking pork. And the fourth fire that you see will be a fire for cooking oil, it's oil to pour on all this food that he's going to prepare. And he said, after 3 days, I come back. She said, okay, my husband, don't lie to me. And that night, they slept. The husband had not eaten. The wife, she had eaten lizards and rats. And in the morning, the husband started to go to prepare his food. And when he was going, the wife, she put in his hand a fire holder, which is like this it's wrapped up in top of cloth, and there's like some dry grass and some dry kindling in it, and it kind of holds embers of a fire so you don't have to rub sticks together. This is what they did in the old days when they didn't have matches. And so he took that, and then he went on. And he came to this place, and he lit a fire. He gathered up the firewood, and he lit a great big fire. And the woman, the wife, she saw that, and she said, my husband spoke the truth. He did not lie to me. Okay? But he did not lie. The oven, the fire for the oven is lit. And, but it was not, that fire, it was a lying fire of Huuti. Okay? But the woman, she thought that it was a fire for cooking in oven. And then when that fire was lit, Huuti, he went to the second place, and he lit a second fire. And the woman saw that fire, and she thought that was a fire. She thought the first fire was for cooking poke. She saw the second fire. She thought there was a fire for cooking the ma. An oven for cooking the ma, which is this kind of bread stuff. And then Huuti, the second fire was lit. Huuti went to a third place, and he lit another fire. And the woman, she saw the third fire, and she thought there was a humupuaka, an oven for pork, for cooking pig. And then she said, hey, that's the third fire. There's only one fire remaining, and then the cooking of the food will be done. And then Huuti, the husband went to a fourth place, another place, and he cooked another fire. And the wife, she saw the last fire, and she said, and then the wife, she went to a different place to watch. And then she said, that's the last fire. The fire for cooking oil. And after those 4 fires were done, Huuti went back and he inspected his fires. And then he went on. And then he went on to Ta'au. And those 4 fires of him were 4 lying fires to Te-Moo-Nieve, to the wife. And he went to Ta'au. And now the wife, okay, and when he got to Ta'awa, what had happened is those people had gone out looking for the hibiscus bark and the mast. And the people who were looking for the hibiscus bark came back to Ta'awa. And what they did was, there wasn't any Huuti. Huuti wasn't there. And then what they did then was, then the people who had, the other people had come back. And the people in Ta'awa asked them, where's Huuti? And they said, who knows? We did not see him. And for 3 days, Huuti was gone. And then he showed up in Ta'awa. And the people in Ta'awa said, where have you been? He said, oh, you old people. Nobody's seen the trouble like me. I'm not going to tell you. Nobody's seen the trouble like me. And they said, what kind of trouble? And so then Huuti, he told them about chopping down the tree in this place called Vaihu, because that's where he chopped it down at. And he said, when I chopped down the tree, it's true. The top of the tree fell down near the mouth of Te-Moo-Nieve's cave. And he says, I pulled 3 times, and it didn't come out. And so I climbed up to see what was on the other end, and it's the truth. There was the Veini High, and she was holding on to my tree. And they said, and then what happened? He said, then what happened? You never saw anything so bad. Pop went her eyeballs. She licked her chops. And they said, did you sleep with the Veini High? Did you sleep with the Ogress woman? He said, yeah. But then I saw her food. Lizards and rats. And he said, and for that reason, who could eat food like that? And for that reason, I lied to her. I told her I'd go and prepare food for us in Ta'awa. But she said, don't lie to her, or I'll die. And then what happened then is, after Huuti had gone to Te-Moo, the Vahini-Hai, the Ogress, Te-Moo-Nieve, she came down and she looked at saw those 4 fires of his. And the first fire she came to, there was just the fire, but no oven, no food. And the second fire, it was just like that, no food. The third fire was just like that. The fourth fire was just like that. And just then with her rage, she said, "Umuena, you sleeping mat." Because that's like an insult. Because you'd sleep on a mat and it would be below your head. It was like, it was not a thing that was tapu. And, "Umuena, oi oi tawahi tiko tiko, you and your lying fires. Oh, 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 you are a white head." And what she means is a moldy head, because they used to have these trophy heads. If you kill somebody, you'd cut off in a war, you'd cut off their head and then you'd smoke it and preserve it. And if you didn't take good care of it, it'd get moldy. And so she called him a moldy head, which I think was a pretty bad insult. And then she was so mad at him. And from there she went to Te-Moo. And when she got to Te-Moo, it was nighttime. And these are the young people in Te-Moo. And they are in the house of the Ka'i, or the house of the young people. And there were 80 people in the house. And the people, the young people, they said to Huuti, they said, "Huuti, is it true Pop went her eyeballs?" And Huuti said, "Yes, Pop went her eyeballs. Moldy, moldy, moldy was her tongue." And those young people, they just laughed and laughed at these words that he was saying about Te-Moo-Nieve. And then Huuti took his sleeping sheet, covered up his head and went to sleep. And the Ogress woman, Te-Moo-Nieve, she's outside. And she's listening to what they're saying inside that house. And she said out there in the dark, "Eyao, Te-Moo-Nieve. Ay o timat ena na mataka. It is I, Te-Moo-Nieve. Now let all of these people fall into a deep sleep." And when she said this chant, everybody in the house fell asleep. And she went inside the house, and she found Huuti sleeping under his sleeping cloth, and she picked him up. And she took him up to her cot. She took him up to her cave. And she laid him down inside her cave. And Huuti, he thought he was still in Te-Moo, in the house of the young people. And time goes by, Huuti's just sleeping there in the cave. And then the wife, she woke up the husband. She said, "Huuti, was her tongue moldy?" And Huuti, his head's covered up in his sleep. And he said, "Yeah, her tongue, moldy, moldy was her tongue." And he's sleeping and he thinks he's in the house of the young people in Te-Moo. And the woman, she said to her husband, she said, "Take out the sleeping mat. Take out the sleeping cloth. It's daytime." And Huuti, he was thinking all along he's in Te-Moo. And he took off the sleeping cloth and he saw he was in the cave. And then he was terrified. And he said, "My woman, stop your anger. Stop." And she said, "Stop nothing. Your evil talk about me is over." And he said, "Oh, I said that evil talk to those people in Te-Moo. It was my trick to them, to those mats, that they would not steal you away. That's why I talked bad about you, so they wouldn't steal you away from me, my dear. I know that you're a beautiful woman." She said, "Everything you've said is a lie. You said to me, you will go and prepare fires for the food. I went and I saw those fires. The fires that I saw were just fires. There was no oven. It was just fires, no food. Your lies, your bad talk is over. I am going to eat you." And he said, "Don't eat me, my wife. Those fires, that was a greeting to you. for? I was only one night in Ta'awa and you stole me away. What's the food that I can cook here for us? If I had stayed in Ta'awa, I could have cooked the food for us. And the anger of the woman, it ceased. And Huuti said, look, what's the food for us here? Let's go to my country, to Ta'awa. And the woman, she said, okay, I agree. And her appearance, because what had happened is, when she was mad at him, she had turned into her Vahini High appearance. And, you know, once she stopped being mad, her appearance of the Vahini High went away. And she again became, you know, just a real woman, just a regular, a beautiful woman. And then they went to Ta'awa, and they stayed in Ta'awa. And in time went by, the woman was the wife was pregnant, and she gave birth to a boy, and his name was FIFA. And she became pregnant again, and she gave birth to a boy named Paul. And then she was pregnant again, and when she was pregnant, the husband, Huuti, he died. And she gave birth to a girl, and the girl's name was Hina. Kopal Teni Ha'akaka. This legend is done. Now, Marquesian legends, a lot of them are talking about the relations and the responsibilities within a family. A brother, a sister helps her brother become a true human, a true man. Husbands and wives, when they enter into marriage, they're coming in as equals. They're bringing in different things, but they're equals. You know, uncles, the mother's brothers and the father's sisters have responsibilities for their nieces and nephews. In this story, this is about a young man, and it's a parable about marriage. And it'd probably be reasonable for people watching the story to think that she was going to eat him at the end, and she didn't. They ended up getting married, and it's kind of a surprise ending, at least maybe for a Westerner, is at one point in the story, he's getting ready to go cook the food, and she put in his hand a fire holder. And what that part of the story is saying is that the husband and wife have got a common goal, and that they're united in that goal. Because it's not just him going to go to the work. She's putting the fire holder in his hand. Okay, they're united in the work. And what had happened in this story is Huuti, the problem that Huuti had is he entered into marriage, and they try to go back to his old friends. And it's no. A young man, when he gets married, he's entered, it's like him and his wife have moved to a new land, and they're going to cultivate that land. That's going to be their family, their children, their house, their living. And it's not proper for the husband to go back to the old land, to his old friends, to his parents' house. He's moved into a new land, and it's kind of scary, but he has to stick that. And Huuti tried to go back, and that created problems for him. And eventually he kind of like settled down and, you know, had children and that sort of stuff. Okay, and that's what, this story is actually about the responsibilities of a husband who's entered into marriage and how the wife and the husband are going to be united together in the same goal. Kopal Tene Te Ka. These words are done.